The snow fell in thick curtains across the Montana peaks, each flake a whispered promise of death. Eliza Hartwell pressed her frozen fingers against the trading post window, watching the world disappear into white. Behind her, rough voices argued over whiskey and cards. Her stomach cramped with hunger. 3 days now without food. The gold wedding band on her finger caught the lamplight, the last thing her murdered husband had given her before the bandits came. $10 for it, the trader had said that morning, eyeing the ring with greed in his tobacco-stained teeth. $10 wouldn't get her through winter, wouldn't buy passage out of this frozen hell, but it might buy enough salt pork to last until spring. Before I continue, I'd love to ask you to take a moment to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support truly matters and motivates us to bring you more quality stories like this one. Where are you listening from today? I'd love to know. The trading post door crashed open. Snow and wind roared inside, along with a man who had to duck beneath the frame. Eliza turned, her breath catching. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, shoulders broad as a barn door beneath his bearskin coat. Black hair hung past his shoulders, and eyes the color of storm clouds swept the room before landing on her. His jaw was carved from granite, a scar running from temple to chin. Muscles strained against his buckskin shirt, arms thick as fence posts, chest deep enough to weather any storm. Need supplies, his voice rumbled like distant thunder. Storm's coming hard, the trader straightened, suddenly nervous. Isaiah Blackwood, heard you was trapping up near Copper Ridge. Was. Isaiah moved toward the counter, each step deliberate, controlled. Grizzly destroyed my cabin. Need shelter till I rebuild. Eliza shrank against the wall as he passed. He smelled of pine and snow and something wild. His presence filled the entire room, made the rough mountain men seem like children. When his eyes found her again, she saw something flicker there. Recognition of her desperation, perhaps, or pity. That woman looks half dead, Isaiah said flatly. Not to her, but to the room. Someone feeding her? She's got money, the trader sneered, trying to sell her ring. Isaiah's massive hand shot out, catching Eliza's wrist before she could hide it. His fingers were warm, despite the cold, calloused, but surprisingly gentle. He lifted her hand, examined the thin gold band, then released her and turned to the trader. Gold isn't what we need here. His storm gray eyes found hers again, held them. You are. Eliza's heart hammered. I don't understand. I've got a cabin, rough but solid, 10 miles north. Plenty of game. Stored food from summer. He spoke slowly, as if gentling a frightened horse. Need someone to cook, mend, keep the place while I trap. Fair trade for shelter and food through winter. I can't. Her voice shattered. The room spun. When had she last eaten? When had she last felt safe? Isaiah caught her as her knees buckled, one enormous arm supporting her weight as if she weighed nothing. Up close, she saw the humanity in his harsh features, concern creasing the corners of his eyes, the set of his jaw protective rather than predatory. Decisions already made, he said softly. You're coming with me. We leave in an hour. The cabin Isaiah Blackwood called rough was better than anywhere Eliza had lived in months. Solid log walls chinked against the wind. A stone fireplace that radiated heat, furs piled on a sturdy bed frame, shelves lined with preserved vegetables, smoked meat hanging from the rafters, and a stack of firewood that reached the ceiling. You take the bed, Isaiah said, dropping his pack by the door. I'll sleep by the fire. I can't take your bed. Eliza's voice was barely a whisper. You can and you will. He moved to the fireplace, began building up the flames with practiced efficiency. Those massive hands worked with surprising dexterity, coaxing heat and light from kindling and split pine. There's a trunk with my mother's old clothes. Should fit you better than those rags. Wash basins behind the curtain. Eliza wanted to protest, but exhaustion weighed her down like river stones. She found the trunk, pulled out a soft flannel dress that smelled of cedar and lavender. Behind the curtain, she scrubbed away weeks of grime with heated water. Isaiah must have prepared. When she emerged, he'd set out bread, cheese, and dried venison on the table. Eat slow, he warned, not looking at her as he cleaned his rifle. Your stomach's not used to food. She obeyed, forcing herself to take small bites despite the hunger clawing at her insides. The bread was heaven. The cheese made her want to weep. Isaiah worked in silence, the rhythmic sound of the cleaning cloth against metal oddly soothing. Why did you help me? The question escaped before she could stop it. His hands paused. For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, my sister, Sarah. She ran from a bad marriage 5 years back. Made it to a trading post in Wyoming. Tried to trade her mother's necklace for food. His jaw tightened. Man who ran the post took the necklace, gave her nothing. She froze to death 3 days later in a snowbank. I'm sorry. The words felt inadequate. I see a woman worth saving, I save her. Simple as that. He returned to his rifle, but his voice softened. You're not property, Eliza Hartwell. You're a person. You'll work for your keep, but you're free to leave come spring if you want. That night, Eliza lay in the soft bed, warm for the first time in months, listening to Isaiah's steady breathing by the fire. She'd traded one form of dependence for another, perhaps, but something in the mountain giant's quiet respect made her think this might be different, might be the beginning of something real. Outside, the storm howled. Inside, she finally slept. Winter settled over the mountain like a white shroud. Days fell into rhythm. Eliza cooked, mended, kept the cabin warm, while Isaiah ran his trap lines. He left before dawn, returned at dusk hauling beaver pelts and fox furs. They spoke little at first. Communication reduced to necessities. Coffee's hot. Thank you. Storm coming. Don't go outside tomorrow. I won't. But slowly, the silence transformed into something else. Isaiah began teaching her the skills she'd need to survive. How to skin a rabbit without wasting meat. How to read the sky for weather changes. How to load and fire his spare rifle. Hold it tighter to your shoulder, he instructed one afternoon, standing behind her as she aimed at a target he'd set up. His presence was overwhelming. That massive chest inches from her back, arms bracketing hers as he adjusted her grip. Recoil will hurt less. Eliza's hands trembled, but not from cold. His warmth enveloped her, made her aware of her own body in ways she'd forgotten. When his rough fingers brushed her wrist, correcting her aim, electricity shot through her. Breathe out slow. Squeeze the trigger, don't pull. The rifle cracked. The target split. Good. His approval rumbled through her. Again. By the third week, she could hit a mark at 50 yards. Isaiah watched with something like pride in his storm-gray eyes. And Eliza felt herself standing taller, breathing deeper. She was becoming someone new in this mountain solitude. Someone stronger. One evening, as she served venison stew, Isaiah spoke more than usual. You never talk about your husband. Eliza's hand stilled. No, don't have to, but sometimes talking helps. She sat across from him, searching his weathered face for judgment and finding none. James was good to me. We had a homestead in Nebraska. Then the bandits came. Her voice cracked. They wanted the horses. James tried to stop them. They shot him, made me watch. Then they took everything and left me there. Isaiah's jaw clenched, knuckles white around his spoon. You see their faces. 3 of them. Leader had a scar shaped like a horseshoe on his neck. Called himself Dutch. Something dangerous flickered in Isaiah's eyes. Dutch Callahan. Know of him. He runs with the Brennan gang out of Silver Creek. It doesn't matter now. Eliza forced herself to eat. James is gone. I survived. That's all. It matters. Isaiah's voice was quiet steel. Man like that needs to answer for what he's done. Revenge won't bring James back. No, but justice might help you sleep at night. Eliza met his gaze across the table, saw the fierce protectiveness there, and something in her chest loosened. This mountain giant barely knew her, yet he cared about her pain, wanted to shoulder her burdens. Tell me about Sarah, she said softly. Your sister. Isaiah's expression shifted. Grief and love warring across his harsh features. He rose, retrieved a small tintype from his pack, handed it to Eliza. A young woman with kind eyes and Isaiah's strong jaw smiled at the camera. She was 17, married a man from town, seemed respectable. Turned out he liked his whiskey more than his wife, liked his fists even more. Isaiah's voice roughened. By the time she got the courage to run, winter was closing in. I was in Canada, trapping. Didn't know she needed help until I came home and found her grave. It wasn't your fault. Wasn't there when she needed me. That's fault enough. He took the tintype back, tucked it away carefully. Won't make that mistake again. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Eliza's heart beat faster. This man, this giant with his gentle hands and protective fury, was starting to mean something to her. Something terrifying and wonderful. That night, unable to sleep, she rose and found Isaiah sitting by the fire, staring into the flames. Without thinking, she sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders nearly touched. Can't sleep? He asked. Too many thoughts. Know that feeling. He poked the fire, sending sparks spiraling upward. This life, it's lonely. Good sometimes, but lonely. Yes, the admission felt like breaking a dam. I thought marrying James would end the loneliness, and it did, for a while. But now you're learning you can be strong alone. Isaiah turned to look at her, and in the firelight, his face seemed younger, more vulnerable. But strong alone doesn't mean you have to be alone forever. Their eyes held. Eliza's breath caught as Isaiah lifted one massive hand, hesitated, then gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. His touch was impossibly tender. This man who could break a man in half touched her like she was made of spun glass. Isaiah, she whispered. Eliza. His voice was rough velvet. I need you to know something. What you've been through, what men did to you, I see it in your eyes sometimes. Fear, and I need you to know. I'll die before I hurt you. You have my word on that. Tears burned her eyes. I know. Do you? His hand cupped her cheek, thumb stroking her skin. Because I'm starting to feel things I swore I wouldn't feel again. And if this scares you, if I scare you, you tell me. I'll step back. You're safe here, no matter what. Eliza leaned into his palm, felt the calloused warmth of him, and made her choice. You don't scare me. Not anymore. Isaiah's breath hitched. Slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, he leaned forward. His lips met hers, gentle, questioning, reverent. Eliza's hands found his chest, felt the hammering of his heart beneath the heavy muscle. When she pressed closer, his arm came around her waist, careful, controlled. The kiss deepened. Isaiah tasted like winter and coffee and promises kept. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Eliza rested her forehead against his. Together, Isaiah murmured against her hair. If you want this, we do it together. Partners. Together, Eliza agreed, and felt something broken inside her begin to heal. The next weeks transformed the cabin into something more than shelter. It became home. Isaiah and Eliza moved around each other with increasing ease, their touches growing bolder. He'd brush her hair before bed, his huge hands surprisingly gentle. She'd tend his cuts from the trap lines, fingers lingering on his scarred skin. One morning, Isaiah came back early from his rounds, excitement bright in his eyes. Need to show you something. He led her through the snow to a clearing 1/2 mile from the cabin. There, a hot spring steamed in the frozen air, surrounded by rocks and pine trees. The water was crystal clear, steam rising into the cold morning. Found it my first year here, Isaiah said. Thought you might like it. Eliza stared at the natural wonder, then at the man who'd shared it with her. It's beautiful. Go on. I'll stand guard. Keep my back turned. She hesitated only a moment before stripping down and sinking into the heated water. It was heaven, the warmth soaking into her bones, washing away months of tension. She floated, eyes closed, lost in sensation. Can I ask you something? Isaiah's voice came from where he stood, true to his word, back turned. Of course. When you look at me, what do you see? The question surprised her. What do you mean? I know what I am. Big, ugly, scarred. Most women cross the street when they see me coming. His shoulders tensed. But you don't seem afraid anymore. Why? Eliza's heart ached for him. She rose from the water, wrapped herself in the blanket he'd brought, and walked to stand in front of him. His eyes widened as she appeared in his field of vision. Look at me, Isaiah. He did. Storm-gray eyes searching her face. I see a man who saved my life without asking for anything in return. I see hands that could crush stones, but touch me like I'm precious. I see someone who's known loss and chose kindness anyway. She reached up, traced the scar on his face. You're not ugly. You're beautiful to me. Isaiah's breath shuddered out. Eliza, will you join me? The invitation was bold, terrifying, necessary. In the water, I want to be close to you. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then, slowly, he began to remove his shirt. Eliza's breath caught at the sight of him. Massive chest, ridged with muscle and marked with scars, each one a story of survival. He was a mountain made flesh, powerful and magnificent. He entered the water carefully, as if afraid he'd displace too much with his bulk. When he settled across from her, steam rising between them, Eliza moved closer. Go slow, she whispered, suddenly nervous as his hands found her waist. You're scaring me. Isaiah froze instantly. We can stop. No. She placed her hands on his chest, felt his heart racing. I meant this feeling, how much I want this. It scares me because I haven't felt this way since... She couldn't finish. Understanding dawned in his eyes. "Then I'll move like snow on your skin," he promised, voice dropping to a reverent whisper. "Soft, gentle, so gentle you'll barely feel me until you're covered in warmth." His lips found her throat, barely a brush of heat. Eliza gasped, tilted her head back. Isaiah's kisses trailed down her neck, across her collarbone, each one feather-light, patient. His hands stayed at her waist, trembling with restraint. "More," Eliza breathed, and he obliged, pulling her closer until their bodies pressed together in the heated water. They stayed in the spring until the water began to cool, learning each other's bodies with reverent touches, whispered promises, and kisses that tasted of forever. When they finally returned to the cabin, wrapped in blankets and each other, something fundamental had shifted between them. That night, Isaiah pulled her into his arms in the bed they now shared, and Eliza felt truly safe for the first time in a year. But peace never lasted long in the mountains. It was late February when the trouble came. Isaiah had gone to check distant trap lines, would be gone overnight. Eliza was preparing dinner when she heard horses outside. Too many horses. Fear locked her joints. She grabbed the rifle Isaiah had taught her to use, moved to the window. 5 men circled the cabin, faces hard beneath their hats. And on the neck of the leader, she saw it, a horseshoe-shaped scar. Dutch Callahan. Her hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the rifle. How had he found her? Why had he come? "We know you're in there, widow," Dutch's voice carried through the walls. "Saw Blackwood leave. Just you now, ain't it?" Eliza's mind raced. The cabin was solid, but 5 men could break through eventually. She had maybe 20 rounds of ammunition. Isaiah wouldn't be back until tomorrow. She was alone. "What do you want?" she called, keeping her voice steady through sheer will. "What do I want?" Dutch laughed, cruel and cold. "Well, we heard about a pretty widow living up here with the mountain giant. Heard he's got a season's worth of prime furs. Figured we'd collect. You can make this easy or hard, sweetheart. You murdered my husband," Eliza's voice cracked. "Took everything from me. Business." Dutch sounded bored. "Now come out or we burn you out." Eliza's breath came in short gasps. She could fight. Isaiah had taught her to shoot, to defend herself. But 5 against 1? She'd die here, and Isaiah would return to find her body. The thought of him grieving over her, adding her death to Sarah's, was unbearable. Unless... Her eyes fell on the kerosene lamp, the spare oil barrel in the corner, the narrow window at the back of the cabin that led to the ravine. An insane plan formed. "Give me a moment," she shouted. "I need to dress properly." Dutch's laughter was answer enough. Eliza moved fast, soaked blankets in the oil barrel, stuffed them under the bed and around the walls, grabbed the pack Isaiah kept ready for emergencies, slung the rifle across her back. She lit the kerosene lamp, adjusted the wick. "Time's up," Dutch called. Eliza opened the front door a crack. "I'm coming out." The moment their attention fixed on the door, she threw the lamp into the oil-soaked blankets and dove through the back window. Fire erupted behind her as she scrambled down the ravine, sliding on ice and snow, branches tearing at her clothes. Shouts of confusion and anger echoed above. "The cabin's burning! She's running! Find her!" Eliza ran through the darkness, using every skill Isaiah had taught her. Move quietly. Use the trees for cover. Don't leave a trail. Her heart hammered against her ribs, lungs burning in the frozen air. Behind her, gunshots cracked. But she was already gone, swallowed by the night and snow. She ran for hours, finally collapsing in a hollow beneath a fallen pine. Her body shook with cold and terror. The cabin was gone. Everything Isaiah had built. And if Dutch found her, she'd die here in this frozen wilderness. But she wouldn't go easy. She'd check the rifle, fully loaded. If they came, she'd fight. For herself. For Isaiah. For the life they'd begun to build together. Dawn broke gray and cold. Eliza hadn't slept, every sound making her flinch. Then, through the trees, she heard something that made her heart stop. Isaiah's voice, roaring her name. She scrambled from her hiding place, saw him running through the snow toward her, wild-eyed and frantic. When he spotted her, relief and fury warred across his face. "Eliza!" He crashed through the last drift, caught her up in his arms. "I saw the smoke, thought, I'm alive." She clung to him, trembling. "Isaiah, it was Dutch Callahan, the man who killed James. He came for the furs, came for me. I burned the cabin so he couldn't have it. Ran. You're alive." Isaiah pulled back, hands framing her face, checking her for injuries. "That's all that matters. Your cabin, your furs, everything can be rebuilt." His eyes were fierce. "You can't. Where's Callahan now?" "I don't know. I ran. They chased me for a while, but I lost them in the dark." Isaiah's jaw clenched. "They're still hunting. I found their camp a mile back. They're planning to search the area today." He looked at her with deadly purpose. "Eliza, I need you to trust me. Can you shoot if you have to?" "Yes." "Good." He pressed his own rifle into her hands. "Because we're going to end this, together." Isaiah's plan was simple and brutal. Use himself as bait, draw Dutch and his men into an ambush. Eliza would provide cover fire from a rocky outcrop, while Isaiah confronted them directly. "You take out anyone who tries to flank me," Isaiah instructed, positioning her among the rocks. "Don't hesitate. These men won't show you mercy." "What if they shoot you?" Eliza's voice shook. Isaiah cupped her face, kissed her hard. "Then you run. Promise me. You run and don't look back." "No." Eliza grabbed his coat. "Together, remember? We do this together, and we both walk away." Something like love blazed in his eyes. "Together," he agreed. He descended into the clearing where Dutch's men would pass, massive and impossible to miss. Eliza held her position, rifle steady, heart in her throat. It didn't take long. Dutch and his 4 men appeared, weapons drawn. When they saw Isaiah waiting, they fanned out, predatory grins splitting their faces. "Well, well," Dutch drawled. "The mountain giant himself. Where's your woman?" "Gone." Isaiah's voice was flat. "You burned down my home for nothing." "Not nothing. You've got something valuable." Dutch gestured to the others. "Kill him. Take whatever he's carrying." They rushed him. Isaiah moved like an avalanche, brutal, unstoppable. His first punch shattered a man's jaw. His second sent another flying into a tree. But numbers counted. They got behind him, one man raising a rifle. Eliza fired. The man dropped. Chaos erupted. Dutch's men scattered, looking for the shooter. Isaiah used the confusion to grab one by the throat, lift him off the ground. The crack of a breaking neck echoed through the trees. 2 left, plus Dutch. Another tried to rush Isaiah from behind. Eliza's second shot took him in the shoulder, spinning him around. Isaiah finished him with a devastating blow that left the man crumpled in the snow. Dutch aimed his pistol at Isaiah's back. Eliza didn't think, just fired. Missed. Dutch turned, spotted her position, grinned. "There you are, widow." He fired twice, Rocks exploded near Eliza's head. She ducked, came up shooting, hit his arm. Dutch howled, dropped his gun, ran. Isaiah started after him, but stumbled. Blood stained his side. One of the men had gotten a knife in during the fight. He went to one knee, hand pressed to the wound. Isaiah! Eliza scrambled down from the rocks, reached him. Blood seeped between his fingers. Too much blood. I'm all right. His face was white. Go, get Dutch. No. Eliza tore strips from her dress, packed the wound. You're not dying on me. Not now. Stubborn woman. You made me this way. Dutch's voice called from the trees. Guess the mountain's too slow. I'll be back, widow. You and him both. Isaiah tried to rise, but his strength was failing. Eliza looked at the blood, at the man she loved guying in the snow, and something fierce awoke in her. She grabbed the rifle, checked the load. Stay here. She kissed him hard. Trust me. Before he could protest, she was running, following Dutch's trail through the snow. Her breath came in white clouds, rage and terror fueling her muscles. Dutch was wounded, leaving a blood trail. She found him trying to reach his horse, fumbling with the reins, one-handed. Stop. Eliza's voice was steel. The rifle pointed steady at his chest. Dutch turned, eyes widening. You gonna shoot me, widow, in cold blood? You killed my husband in cold blood. Shot him down while he was unarmed. Eliza's finger tightened on the trigger. You tried to burn me alive tonight. You hurt Isaiah. He ain't dead yet. Dutch laughed, desperate. Probably bleeding out right now while you're wasting time with me. The words struck home. Eliza's hands shook. Isaiah. He needed her. But if she let Dutch go, he'd come back. He'd never stop hunting them. Please, Dutch's voice changed, became pleading. I got money, hidden in Silver Creek. I'll tell you where. I don't want your money. Eliza's voice was calm now, certain. I want you to answer for what you've done. She fired once. Dutch fell, clutching his leg. The second shot took his other arm. He screamed, writhing in the snow. Eliza lowered the rifle, looked at the man who destroyed her life, now broken before her. You're going to live, she said quietly. I'm going to tie you up, and when we get to the nearest town, you're going to hang for murder and banditry. She stepped closer, looked down at him without pity. But first, you're going to help me save Isaiah, or I'll leave you here for the wolves. The journey back was a nightmare. Dutch, bound and bleeding, stumbled ahead while Eliza drove him on with the rifle. When they reached Isaiah, he was unconscious, his breathing shallow. Using every ounce of her strength, Eliza got him onto Dutch's horse, tied Dutch behind. The nearest town was 10 miles. It took 6 hours. By the time they reached civilization, the sun was setting. People rushed out, gasping at the sight. A small woman, covered in blood, leading a horse with a dying giant and a tied-up outlaw. The doctor took Isaiah immediately. The sheriff took Dutch. Eliza collapsed in a chair outside the doctor's office and waited. Hours passed. At some point, someone brought her coffee. She couldn't drink it. Her hands shook too much. All she could see was Isaiah's blood in the snow, his face pale as death. If he died, what would she do? How could she go on? The doctor emerged at dawn, wiping blood from his hands. He's alive. Lost a lot of blood, but the knife missed anything vital. He'll need rest, but he'll recover. Eliza's legs gave out. Strong hands caught her. The sheriff. Easy now. You did good, ma'am. Real good. Can I seat him? Give us a few minutes to get him settled. When she finally entered the room, Isaiah was propped up in bed, bandaged and pale, but conscious. His storm-gray eyes found hers, and something in his expression made her chest ache. "Eliza." His voice was weak but certain. "Come here." She went to him, took his offered hand. "You scared me. You hunted down Dutch Callahan alone." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "I'm the one who should be scared. I couldn't let him hurt you." Tears finally came, hot and fast. "I couldn't lose you, Isaiah. I love you." His hand tightened on hers. "Say that again." "I love you." The words were easier the second time. "I think I have for weeks. I was just too afraid to admit it. I love you too." Isaiah pulled her down gently, kissed her with everything he had left. "And when I get out of this bed, I'm going to marry you proper, if you'll have a broken-down mountain giant." Eliza laughed through her tears. "Yes, yes, you ridiculous man. Of course I'll marry you." "Together," Isaiah murmured, already drifting back to sleep. "Together," Eliza agreed, holding his hand as if she'd never let go. Spring came to Montana with wildflowers and rushing streams. Isaiah healed slowly but surely, his strength returning day by day. The town, grateful for Dutch's capture, had passed a collection to help them rebuild. The cabin rose again from its ashes, bigger this time, with a separate room for guests and proper glass windows. On a bright May morning, surrounded by pines and peaks, Isaiah Blackwood and Eliza Hartwell were married by a circuit preacher. She wore her mother-in-law's wedding dress, altered to fit. He wore new buckskins and looked uncomfortable, but happy. Their few friends from town attended, along with the sheriff, who'd become something of a fixture in their lives. "Do you, Isaiah Blackwood, take this woman?" "I do." Isaiah didn't wait for the full question. "I do." Laughter rippled through the small gathering. The preacher smiled. "And do you, Eliza Hartwell?" "I do." She grinned up at her mountain giant. "Absolutely." "Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. You may." Isaiah was already kissing her, lifting her clean off her feet, both of them laughing against each other's mouths. When he finally set her down, Eliza was breathless and happier than she'd ever imagined possible. The celebration was simple: roasted venison, fresh bread, whiskey passed around. As the sun set and their friends departed, Isaiah carried Eliza over the threshold of their new home. "Welcome home, Mrs. Blackwood." "I've been home for months," Eliza said, touching his scarred face. "Anywhere with you is home." He set her down carefully, both of them suddenly nervous. This was different from the hot spring, different from stolen moments. This was forever, sanctified, right. "Go slow," Eliza whispered, echoing that first vulnerable moment. "Not because I'm scared, because I want to remember every second." Isaiah's eyes blazed with love and need. "Then I'll move like snow on your skin," he promised, voice rough with emotion. "We've got all night. We've got all our lives." And he did, tender and patient, worshipful and sure. They learned each other completely that night, gave themselves without reservation, and when dawn broke over the mountains, they lay tangled together, complete. Summer arrived in waves of golden heat, transforming the mountain from a realm of ice into something alive and verdant. Eliza woke each morning to birdsong and the warmth of Isaiah's body beside hers. And she marveled at how quickly joy had replaced the numbness that had defined her existence just months before. The new cabin stood testament to their partnership. Larger than the first, with windows that let in light, and a porch where they could sit in the evenings. Isaiah had carved their initials into the doorframe, along with their wedding date. Every nail, every board, represented hope rebuilt. But with summer came work. The garden Eliza planted demanded constant attention, weeding, watering, protecting the tender shoots from deer and rabbits. Isaiah's trap lines shifted with the season, focusing now on the pelts that would bring top dollar when fall came. They worked from dawn until dusk, building not just a home, but a future. "You're working too hard," Isaiah said one afternoon, finding Eliza bent over the potato plants, sweat darkening her dress between her shoulder blades. "Take a rest," says the man who spent all morning hauling logs. Eliza straightened, wiping her forehead with the back of her hand. "We're both working hard. That's what it takes." Isaiah crossed to her, pulled her against his chest, despite the sweat and dirt covering them both. "I know, but I worry. You've been looking tired lately, pale." "I'm fine." Eliza leaned into him, breathing in his scent, pine and leather and something uniquely him. Just adjusting to the heat after such a hard winter. But she'd noticed it too, the exhaustion that seemed to sink into her bones by mid-afternoon, the queasiness that struck without warning. She chalked it up to the change in seasons, the richness of summer food after months of preserved meat and root vegetables. It wasn't until she missed her monthly courses that understanding dawned. Eliza stood at the wash basin one morning, staring at her reflection. Her breasts felt tender, fuller. The nausea that had plagued her for weeks suddenly made perfect sense. She pressed a hand to her flat stomach, wonder and terror warring in her chest. A baby. Isaiah's baby. "Eliza?" Isaiah's voice came from the main room. "You all right in there?" She opened the door, found him pulling on his shirt, preparing for the day's work. His eyes immediately found hers, read the expression there with the uncanny ability he developed over their months together. "What's wrong?" He was at her side in 2 strides, hands on her shoulders. "Are you hurt? Sick?" "No, I mean..." Eliza took a breath, steadied herself. "Isaiah, I think I'm pregnant." The words hung between them. Isaiah's hands tightened on her shoulders, his eyes widening. For a terrible moment, she couldn't read his expression. Shock? Fear? Regret? Then his face transformed. Pure joy blazed across his features, so bright it took her breath away. "A baby?" His voice was hushed, reverent. One massive hand moved to her stomach, covered it completely. "Our baby?" "I think so. I've missed my courses, and I've been sick and..." Tears spilled over. "Are you happy? Because I'm terrified, Isaiah. I don't know anything about being a mother. And what if something goes wrong and..." He silenced her with a kiss, gentle and deep. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. "I'm terrified too," he admitted. "But I'm also the happiest I've ever been." His thumb stroked her stomach in gentle circles. "We'll figure it out together, just like everything else." "Together," Eliza echoed, feeling the fear ease slightly. With Isaiah, she could face anything, even the unknown territory of motherhood. The next months transformed their lives again. Isaiah became almost comically protective, refusing to let Eliza lift anything heavier than a water bucket, hovering whenever she climbed the porch steps. Eliza found it endearing and exasperating in equal measure. "I'm pregnant, not made of glass," she protested one morning when he tried to carry her to the outhouse. "Don't care. You're carrying something precious." Isaiah's jaw was set in that stubborn line she'd come to know well. Humor me. You realize women have babies all the time without their husbands treating them like invalids? Not my woman. Not my baby. Despite her protests, Eliza found herself grateful for his attentiveness as her body changed. By the end of summer, her belly had begun to swell. By fall, she couldn't see her feet. The baby moved constantly, strong kicks that made Isaiah's face light up with wonder whenever he felt them. "Active little thing," he murmured one evening, his hands splayed across her stomach as they lay in bed. "Going to be a fighter." "Like his father," Eliza said, then caught herself. "Or her father. Don't care which. As long as they're healthy, as long as you're healthy." But as winter approached again, Eliza's anxiety grew. She'd heard the stories: women who bled out during childbirth, babies born dead or dying, fevers that took mothers within days. The nearest doctor was in town, 10 miles away, and with the snow coming, that journey could become impossible. "We need to make a plan," she said one evening as the first October snow dusted the peaks. "The baby will come in January. If we get snowed in, we won't." Isaiah's voice was firm. "I've been talking to Mrs. Henderson in town. She's delivered a dozen babies, helped her mother deliver dozens more. Soon as the snow starts to stick, we're moving to town for the winter." Leave the cabin? Eliza hadn't expected that. But the trap lines, can wait. Isaiah took her hands, held them tight. "Nothing matters but you and this baby. Nothing. We'll rent a room, be close to help. Come spring, we'll come back home." Eliza saw the determination in his eyes, the love, and nodded. "All right." Together, they moved to town in mid-November, taking a small room above the general store. It was cramped after the spaciousness of the cabin, but Mrs. Henderson lived just down the street, and the doctor could be summoned within minutes if needed. The waiting was agony. Every twinge made Eliza wonder if labor was starting. Every night she lay awake, listening to Isaiah's breathing, feeling the baby shift inside her, and prayed. For safety, for strength, for the courage to face what was coming. "What if I can't do it?" she whispered one night, breaking the darkness. Isaiah rolled toward her, his bulk taking up most of the narrow bed. "You faced down Dutch Callahan, survived winter alone. You're the strongest person I know." "This is different. You're right. It's harder." His hand found her stomach, felt the baby kick. "But you're not alone. I'll be right there. Mrs. Henderson will be there. And when it's over, we'll have our child." What if something goes wrong? The fear she'd been holding back spilled out. "What if I die, Isaiah? What if—" "Don't!" His voice cracked. "Don't say that. Don't even think it." "I have to. Promise me, if something happens, you'll take care of the baby. Promise me you won't—" "Stop!" Isaiah's arms came around her, as much as her swollen belly allowed. "You're going to be fine, both of you. I won't lose you, Eliza. I can't." But they both knew promises meant nothing against the realities of childbirth. All they could do was wait and hope and hold each other through the long winter nights. The labor started on a January morning when fresh snow was falling. Eliza woke to a cramping pain that made her gasp, felt wetness between her legs. "Isaiah." Her voice came out small, frightened. "It's time." He was up instantly, moving with purpose despite the fear she saw in his eyes. Within minutes, Mrs. Henderson arrived, took one look at Eliza, and started giving orders. "Boil water. Get clean linens. Then wait outside, Mr. Blackwood." "I'm not leaving her." Isaiah's voice was steel. Mrs. Henderson's eyes softened. "Most men don't stay for this. It's hard to watch. Don't care." Isaiah moved to Eliza's side, took her hand. "I stay." What followed was hours of pain unlike anything Eliza had imagined. The contractions came in waves, building and cresting until she thought she'd break. Isaiah held her hand through all of it, letting her squeeze until his fingers went white, wiping her face with cool cloths, murmuring encouragement when she wanted to scream that she couldn't do it, couldn't possibly survive this. "You can," he said again and again. "You're almost there. Just a little more." When Mrs. Henderson finally said push, Eliza bore down with everything she had, felt something tear, heard herself scream. Isaiah's face was white, but his grip never faltered. "Again," Mrs. Henderson commanded. "Big push now." Eliza pushed, felt impossible pressure, impossible pain, and then a baby's cry split the air. "It's a boy," Mrs. Henderson announced, lifting a small, wriggling form. "A healthy boy." Eliza collapsed back, sobbing with relief and exhaustion. Isaiah's hand trembled in hers as Mrs. Henderson cleaned the baby, wrapped him in a blanket, and placed him on Eliza's chest. He was perfect. Tiny and red-faced and screaming, but perfect. Dark hair like his father. And when his eyes opened briefly, Eliza saw storm-gray irises. "Hello, little one," she whispered, touching his impossibly small fingers. "Hello, James." Isaiah's breath hitched at the name. James, for the husband she'd lost, the man whose death had led her to this new life. He leaned down, kissed Eliza's forehead, then gently touched his son's cheek with one massive finger. "James Blackwood," he murmured. "Welcome to the world, son." The baby's crying settled to whimpers, then stopped entirely as he nuzzled against Eliza's breast. In the sudden quiet, Eliza looked up at her husband, this mountain of a man with tears streaming down his scarred face, and felt her heart might burst. "We did it," she said. "You did it." Isaiah's voice was thick with emotion. "You're amazing. So damn strong." Mrs. Henderson cleared her throat. "I'll leave you three alone for a bit, but I'll be back to check on them both shortly." She paused at the door. "You've got a good man there, Mrs. Blackwood. Not many would stay through that." When she left, Isaiah climbed carefully onto the bed, arranged himself so Eliza could lean against his chest while holding their son. The three of them fit together like pieces of a puzzle, complete. "I was so scared," Eliza admitted. "So scared something would go wrong." "Me too." Isaiah's arm came around her shoulders, careful not to disturb the baby. "But you're both here, both safe. That's all that matters." Little James made a small sound, a coo that seemed impossibly sweet. Eliza felt the tug as he latched on, beginning to nurse, and marveled at the instinct that guided him. Life was extraordinary. Love was extraordinary. "Thank you," Isaiah whispered against her hair. "For this, for him, for choosing me." "You chose me first," Eliza reminded him. "In that trading post, when I had nothing to offer but desperation. You offered everything." Isaiah kissed her temple. "Your courage, your strength, your heart. Best trade I ever made." They sat like that until the light changed, watching their son sleep, feeling the miracle of new life, and dreaming of all the tomorrows they'd share. Spring returned with mud and birdsong, and with it, the Blackwood family returned to their mountain home. Isaiah carried James in a sling against his chest, the tiny boy looking absurdly small against his father's massive frame. Eliza walked beside them, stronger now, healed, ready to begin the next chapter. The cabin stood waiting, solid and welcoming. Everything was as they'd left it. The furniture Isaiah had built, the quilts Eliza had sewn, the iron stove that kept them warm through winter nights. But now it would be filled with different sounds. A baby's cries and laughter, the murmur of lullabies, the patter of tiny feet learning to walk. Home, Eliza said, breathing in the pine-scented air. Home, Isaiah agreed and carried his family inside. But their peace was destined to be short-lived. It was late April when the rider came, a young man barely out of his teens, wearing a deputy's star and a worried expression. "Isaiah Blackwood," he called, reining in his horse outside the cabin. Isaiah emerged, immediately wary. Unexpected visitors rarely brought good news. "That's me." "Deputy Marshal Jacobson, sir. I've got some news from Silver Creek." The young man dismounted, pulled an envelope from his saddlebag. "About Dutch Callahan." Eliza appeared in the doorway, James in her arms. At the mention of that name, her blood ran cold. "He's dead, isn't he?" she said flatly. "Hung for his crimes." Deputy Jacobson's expression turned grim. "That's just it, ma'am. He never made it to trial. Someone broke him out of jail 2 weeks ago. 3 men, armed and organized, killed the night guard. Dutch and his rescuers disappeared into the mountains." The world seemed to tilt. Isaiah's hand found the doorframe, knuckles white. "You're saying he's free?" "Yes, sir. And there's more." Jacobson pulled out a second paper. "This was found nailed to the jailhouse door. It's a threat, against you both." Isaiah took the paper, unfolded it. His jaw clenched as he read. When he looked up, his eyes were storm-dark with fury. "What does it say?" Eliza demanded. "Says he's coming back. Says he's going to finish what he started." Isaiah's voice was quiet, deadly. "Says he's going to make us watch each other die." Eliza's arms tightened around James. The baby, sensing her tension, began to fuss. "He's insane. He's dangerous." Jacobson looked between them. "The marshal thought you should know. Be prepared. Dutch has friends. What's left of the Brennan gang. Could be a dozen men coming your way. Let them come." Isaiah's voice was granite. "They'll find more than they bargained for. Sir, with respect, you've got a wife and baby now. Maybe consider moving to town, at least until Dutch is caught. Run?" Isaiah shook his head. "No, this is our home, our land. If Dutch wants a fight, he'll get one. But it'll be on my terms." After the deputy left, promising to send word if they learned anything new, Isaiah and Eliza stood on the porch, watching the sun set over the mountains. James had quieted, sleeping peacefully against his mother's shoulder, blissfully unaware of the danger approaching. "We should take James to town," Eliza said quietly. "At least him. Let Mrs. Henderson keep him safe while we—" "No!" Isaiah turned to her, cupped her face. "We don't separate. Whatever comes, we face it together. That's what we promised. Isaiah, if something happens to us, he'll be orphaned. He needs his parents." Isaiah's thumb stroked her cheek. "Both of us, alive and fighting. We survived Dutch once, we'll do it again. This is different. Last time, we were lucky. This time," her voice broke, "this time there might be more of them, better armed, and we have a baby to protect. Then we'll be smarter, more prepared." Isaiah's eyes held fierce determination. "I've already got ideas. Ways to defend this place. Ways to make sure Dutch regrets ever coming back." Over the next weeks, the cabin transformed into something between a home and a fortress. Isaiah reinforced the walls, installed shutters that could be barred from inside. He built a hidden cellar beneath the floor, stocked with food, water, and weapons, dug rifle pits around the perimeter, hidden in the tree line. Set traps in the approaches, subtle things that would slow attackers, give advance warning. Eliza learned to shoot while holding James, practiced loading rifles one-handed, mastered the art of moving silently through the cabin in darkness. They drilled scenarios. What if Dutch came at night? What if they set fire to the cabin? What if one of them was injured? You take James to the cellar, Isaiah instructed during one session. Bar the hatch from inside. There's a tunnel. I dug it last week. Leads to that hollow half a mile north. Even if they burn us out, you and James can escape. What about you? Eliza demanded. I'll hold them off. Give you time to run. No, Eliza grabbed his arm. We don't separate. I won't let you sacrifice yourself for us. Eliza. No, her voice was steel. You told me once that Sarah died because you weren't there to help her. Don't you dare try to be noble now. We fight together, or we run together, but we stay together. Do you understand? Isaiah's resistance crumbled. He pulled her close, breathed in the scent of her hair. Together, he agreed, voice rough. Always together. But as days turned to weeks, with no sign of Dutch, tension became a constant companion. Every snapped twig made them reach for weapons. Every horse in the distance sent them to the windows. James grew and laughed and learned to roll over, surrounded by parents who jumped at shadows and slept in shifts. This is no way to live, Eliza said one evening as they sat on the porch, watching the sunset. James gurgled happily in her lap, reaching for a sunbeam. Always afraid, always waiting. I know. Isaiah's hand found hers. But what else can we do? Run for the rest of our lives? Let Dutch win? Maybe we could hunt him first, track him down before he comes for us. Thought of that. Problem is, we don't know where he is. Could be anywhere in these mountains. Could be watching us right now, waiting for his moment. Isaiah's jaw clenched. All we can do is be ready. The attack came on a morning in early June, when the world was green and gold and perfect. Eliza was in the garden, James sleeping in a basket nearby, when the first shot rang out. The bullet whined past her head, thunked into the cabin wall. She grabbed James and ran, screaming for Isaiah. He burst from the cabin, rifle already in hand. Get inside, now! More shots! Eliza saw muzzle flashes from the tree line. 4 positions, maybe 5. Isaiah returned fire, his shots controlled and precise. One of the shooters screamed, went silent. They made it inside. Isaiah slammed the door, barred it. Cellar! Go! Together, Eliza reminded him, already moving. She climbed down into the hidden space, James crying now, terrified. Isaiah followed, pulled the hatch closed over their heads, barred it from below. Darkness swallowed them. Above, they heard footsteps on the floor, voices calling. Blackwood, we know you're in there! Dutch's voice, alive and close and full of promised violence. Come out, and maybe we'll make it quick. Stay hidden, and we'll burn you out like rats. Isaiah's hand found Eliza's in the darkness, squeezed once. She felt him moving, knew he was checking the tunnel entrance, making sure their escape route was clear. What do we do? She whispered. Wait, let them think we're trapped. Isaiah's voice was barely audible. When they start trying to break in, we use the tunnel, circle behind them, catch them between us and the cabin. Isaiah, that's insane. There's at least 4 of them. 5. His voice was grim. I counted 5 muzzle flashes. But they don't know about the tunnel. Don't know we can move. That's our advantage. Above, the sounds of destruction began. Furniture being overturned, glass breaking. Dutch's laughter, cruel and triumphant. Burn it, he shouted. Smoke them out. The smell of kerosene filtered down, then smoke. James coughed, whimpered. Eliza's heart raced. They had minutes, maybe less. Now, Isaiah hissed. He moved to the tunnel entrance, pushed it open. Cool air rushed in, carrying the scent of earth and pine. You first. Stay low. When you reach the end, wait for my signal. What signal? You'll know. He pressed a pistol into her hand. If something happens to me, you run. Take James and don't look back. Isaiah, promise me, Eliza. Our son lives no matter what. Promise. She couldn't speak, could only nod. Then she was crawling through the tunnel, James clutched awkwardly in one arm, the pistol in her other hand, darkness pressing close. The tunnel seemed endless. Behind her, she heard Isaiah following. Above and behind, smoke was filling the cellar, filtering into the tunnel. James was crying steadily now, each wail like a knife in her heart. Then, light. The tunnel exit, disguised as a deadfall at the base of a ravine. Eliza crawled out, gasped in clean air, held James tight as he coughed and sobbed. Isaiah emerged seconds later, his face grim. He took in their position, the cabin visible through the trees, smoke now pouring from the windows, flames beginning to lick at the roof. "They're all watching the fire," he said quietly, "waiting for us to come running out. We circle wide, come up behind them." "With a baby?" Eliza's voice was harsh. "Isaiah, we need to run, get James to safety." "And let them burn our home again?" Isaiah's jaw was set. "No, I'm ending this, today." He pulled her deeper into the ravine, to where he'd stashed supplies, more weapons, ammunition, the rifle Eliza had used against Dutch the first time. He began loading weapons with mechanical efficiency. "Here's what we do," he said. "You stay here with James. Stay hidden. I circle around, take them from behind. Once the shooting starts, you move toward town, fast as you can." "No." Eliza grabbed his arm. "You're not doing this alone." "Eliza?" "No." Her voice cracked. "You go out there alone, you die. Then James and I are alone. Is that what you want? For your son to grow up without a father?" Isaiah's face twisted with anguish. "I can't let them win. Can't let them take everything we've built. They already have." Eliza gestured at the burning cabin. "It's gone, Isaiah. The cabin, the furs, everything. But we're alive. James is alive. That's what matters. We can rebuild houses. We can't rebuild our family if you're dead." The fight went out of him. Isaiah slumped against the ravine wall, looking suddenly exhausted. "You're right. God help me, you're right. Then we run. Now. Before they realize we're gone." But fate had other plans. A voice called from above, too close, too knowing. "Found the tunnel! They're in the ravine!" Dutch appeared at the edge, grinning, rifle pointed down at them. Behind him, 4 other men emerged, weapons ready. "Well, well," Dutch drawled. "Thought you were clever, didn't you? Thought you could escape?" His eyes found James, and his grin widened. "Is that a baby? How sweet. A whole family. Too bad you'll all die together." Isaiah stepped in front of Eliza and James, making himself a wall. "You want them? You go through me." Gladly, Dutch raised his rifle. The shot never came. Instead, a different sound split the air, the thunder of hoofbeats, many of them. Dutch spun, and Eliza saw his face go white. A dozen riders burst from the trees, led by Deputy Jacobson and Sheriff Morrison from town. They'd come armed for war, rifles, shotguns, even a few ex-soldiers with repeating carbines. "Drop your weapons," Morrison bellowed. "You're surrounded." For one frozen moment, everything hung in balance. Dutch looked at his men, looked at the posse, looked back at Isaiah and Eliza. Calculation warred with rage in his eyes. Then he bolted. disappearing into the trees. His men scattered, some dropping weapons and raising hands, others running like their leader. The posse split, some pursuing Dutch, others securing the prisoners. Isaiah didn't wait to see the outcome. He climbed down into the ravine, gathered Eliza and James into his arms. "It's over," he murmured against her hair. "It's over." But Eliza heard the gunshots still echoing through the trees. New Dutch was still out there, still free. It wasn't over. Not yet. Sheriff Morrison appeared at the ravine edge. "You folks all right?" "Alive," Isaiah said. "How did you know to come?" "Got word from a trapper. Said he'd seen Dutch and his gang heading this direction. We rode hard to get here." Morrison's face was grim. "Cabin's gone, I'm afraid. But you're alive. That's what counts." In the end, they spent another night in town while the posse hunted Dutch through the mountains. Eliza and Isaiah took a room at the boarding house, held their son between them, and tried not to think about everything they'd lost. "We'll rebuild," Isaiah said quietly. "Stronger this time. Better." "I know." Eliza pressed close to him. "But Isaiah, I meant what I said. The house doesn't matter. Only you. Only James. Only us." "I know, and I'm sorry. Sorry I almost—" his voice broke. "Almost got us killed because I was too stubborn to run. We're alive, that's what matters." She kissed him. Together. The next morning brought news. The posse had cornered Dutch in a box canyon. He'd refused to surrender, gone down fighting. It was finally, truly over. When Isaiah and Eliza returned to their land 3 days later, the cabin was a blackened shell. But the garden had survived. The hidden cache of supplies was untouched. And the land, their land, still stretched beautiful and wild around them. "From here," Isaiah said, James in his arms, standing in the ruins of what had been. "We start from here." Eliza took his free hand, looked at the mountains, the valley, the creek singing over stones. "Then let's begin." The rebuilding took all summer. Friends from town came to help, repayment for the Blackwoods capturing Dutch, for making the territory safer. The new cabin rose larger and stronger, with a proper nursery for James and a workroom for Eliza's sewing. By the time the leaves turned gold and red, they had a home again. Different from the first, different from the second, but theirs in every way that mattered. James took his first steps that autumn, tottering between his parents on the porch, laughing when he fell and his father's huge hands caught him. Eliza watched them play, her giant and her tiny boy, and felt peace settle into her bones. That evening, after James was asleep and they sat by the fire, Isaiah pulled a small package from his pocket. "Been working on this," he said, suddenly shy. "For you." Eliza unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a necklace, a delicate chain with a pendant carved from mountain jade. The carving was intricate, clearly the work of many hours. A mountain, with a tiny cabin at its base, surrounded by trees. "Isaiah," she breathed, "it's beautiful. Wanted you to have something that wouldn't burn, something permanent." He fastened it around her neck, his fingers gentle on her skin. "To remember everything we've built, everything we've survived." Eliza turned in his arms, kissed him deeply. "I don't need a necklace to remember, but I'll treasure it anyway." "I love you," Isaiah said, "more than mountains, more than sky, more than my own life. I love you too." Eliza pressed her hand over his heart, felt it beating strong and steady. "My mountain, my home." They made love that night with the tenderness of those who'd faced death and chosen life. who'd lost everything and built it back again. And when dawn came, painting the peaks in rose and gold, they woke together in their home, their son sleeping peacefully in the next room, and knew they'd finally found the peace they'd fought so hard to claim. Autumn deepened into winter, but this time the cold held no fear. The cabin was warm, the pantry full, and the Blackwood family was complete. Isaiah ran his trap lines while Eliza minded James and worked on her sewing. She discovered a talent for it, and women in town were willing to pay good money for her careful stitching. One evening in late November, as the first real snow began to fall, there was a knock at the door. Isaiah answered it, rifle ready out of habit, and found Deputy Jacobson standing on the porch. "Evening, sir. Sorry to disturb you." "No disturbance. Come in out of the cold." Jacobson entered, nodded respectfully to Eliza. "Ma'am, I won't take much of your time. Just wanted to deliver this in person." He pulled an envelope from his coat. "It's from the territorial governor." Isaiah opened it, read silently. His eyebrows rose. "Eliza, come look at this." She read over his shoulder, her eyes widening. The letter was formal, official, thanking them for their role in bringing Dutch Callahan to justice. But more than that, it contained a land grant. 200 acres surrounding their cabin, officially deeded to Isaiah and Eliza Blackwood, with mineral rights and water rights included. "It's recognition for your service to the territory," Jacobson explained. "Not many folks would have stood up to Dutch like you did. Governor wanted to make sure you were taken care of." After the deputy left, Isaiah and Eliza stood holding the deed, looking at each other in wonder. "We own it," Eliza whispered. "All of it. The cabin, the land, the creek. It's really ours. All ours." Isaiah pulled her close. "Can't take it from us. Can't burn it. It's ours to pass down to James and his children after him." That night, they lay in bed, listening to the wind howl outside, warm and safe, while James slept peacefully in his cradle. Eliza traced the scars on Isaiah's chest, each one a story, a battle won. "Do you ever think about that day in the trading post?" she asked quietly. "When you first saw me?" "Every day." "Do you regret it? Taking in a half-starved widow with nothing to offer?" Isaiah rolled to face her, his eyes serious in the firelight. "You offered me everything. A reason to be more than alone. A purpose beyond survival." His hand cupped her face. "You gave me love when I thought I'd never have it again. You gave me James. You gave me a future." He kissed her softly. "No regrets, not one. Not even when I burned down your cabin?" Eliza teased. "Especially not then," Isaiah grinned. "That's when I knew for certain you were the bravest woman alive." They laughed together, soft and warm, and made love while snow fell outside their window, blanketing the world in white. Christmas came quietly, just the three of them. Isaiah carved a small wooden horse for James, who was delighted with it despite being too young to really play. Eliza made Isaiah new gloves from the softest deer hide, lined with rabbit fur. They roasted a wild turkey and ate by candlelight, while James banged his spoon on his high chair and babbled nonsense. "This is perfect," Eliza said, looking around their home. "Everything I never knew I wanted." "Everything we built," Isaiah corrected. Together. As winter deepened, they settled into a rhythm that felt eternal. Days of work and play, evenings by the fire, nights wrapped in each other's arms. James grew steadily, his personality emerging, curious like his mother, steady like his father, with a smile that could light up a room. One morning in late February, Eliza woke feeling queasy. Again. She lay still, recognizing the sensation, and felt a smile spread across her face. Isaiah? He stirred beside her. I think we're going to need to make that nursery bigger. His eyes opened, found hers. Understanding dawned, followed by joy so pure it took her breath away. Really? Really. She took his hand, placed it on her stomach. Baby number 2, coming next fall. Isaiah's whoop of joy woke James, who started crying. They tumbled out of bed together, laughing, and went to comfort their son, to begin another day in the life they'd built from nothing. Spring arrived with wildflowers and rushing water, and with it, a surprise visitor. A young woman rode up to the cabin one April morning, her belongings packed on a mule, her face hopeful but nervous. "Are you Isaiah Blackwood?" she asked as he emerged from the cabin. "I am. My name's Rebecca Hartwell. I was James Hartwell's cousin." Eliza appeared in the doorway, James on her hip, her expression shifting from wariness to shock. "Rebecca? Little Rebecca from Nebraska?" "Not so little anymore." The young woman smiled uncertainly. "I heard about what happened to James, and that you'd remarried and settled up here. I didn't have anywhere else to go. My parents died last winter, and I thought," she faltered, "I thought maybe family would take me in." Eliza looked at Isaiah. He nodded, once decisive. "Get down off that horse," Eliza said warmly. "You're family. Of course you're welcome here." Rebecca stayed, becoming part of their household. She was good with James, helped with the chores, and brought a bright energy to the cabin. Isaiah built her a small sleeping space off the main room, gave her privacy and respect. "It's good," he told Eliza one evening, as they watched Rebecca playing with James. "Good to have family around. Good for James to grow up knowing he has people who care for him beyond just us. And when the new baby comes, another pair of hands will be welcome," Eliza added, rubbing her slowly swelling belly. Life on the mountain had found its balance. Hard work and simple joys, love and family, and the knowledge that they'd survived everything the world had thrown at them and emerged stronger. Summer brought heat and long days, fall brought harvest and preparation for winter. And on a crisp October morning, with Rebecca helping and Mrs. Henderson attending, Eliza delivered their second child, a daughter, perfect and pink and loud. "Sarah," Isaiah said, his voice thick with emotion as he held his daughter for the first time. "For my sister, if that's all right with you." "It's perfect," Eliza agreed, exhausted but happy. "Sarah Blackwood, welcome to the world, little one." James, now a toddler, was fascinated by his baby sister, wanting to touch her constantly, bringing her his favorite toys. Rebecca doted on both children, and the cabin rang with laughter and love. That winter, snowed in and cozy, the extended Blackwood family created traditions that would last generations. Isaiah told stories by the firelight. Eliza sang lullabies passed down from her grandmother. Rebecca taught James his letters. They played games, made music with spoons and pots, and found joy in the simplest moments. "This is what I imagined," Isaiah said one evening, watching his family gathered by the fire. "When I was alone, running trap lines, I'd imagine something like this. But the reality is so much better than the dream." "Because it's real," Eliza said, leaning against him. "Because we built it with our own hands, fought for it with our own courage." "Because you said yes," Isaiah corrected. "In that trading post, when I offered you shelter, you said yes, and everything changed." Eliza fought back to that desperate woman, starving and scared, willing to trade her last possession for a meal. She barely recognized herself in that memory. The woman she'd become was stronger, fiercer, filled with purpose and love. "Best decision I ever made," she said. "Second best," Isaiah replied. When she looked at him questioningly, he grinned. "First best was me deciding to walk into that trading post that day." She laughed, swatted his arm, and kissed him as the fire crackled and their children slept and snow fell softly outside. 5 years later, the Blackwood homestead had grown into something remarkable. Isaiah's trap lines were the most productive in the territory. Eliza's garden fed them through every winter, and her sewing business brought steady income. Rebecca had married a good man from town and built a cabin nearby with her husband. James was now 8, running through the meadows on sturdy legs, already learning to track and hunt with his father. Sarah was 5, all dark curls and her father's storm-gray eyes, with her mother's fierce spirit. And between them, 3-year-old Rebecca, named for the cousin who'd become a sister, and 1-year-old Isaiah Jr., called Junior to avoid confusion. Eliza stood on the porch one summer evening, watching Isaiah teach James and Sarah to skip stones in the creek. The children's laughter rang clear as bells, and Isaiah's deep chuckle answered it. Junior slept against her shoulder, warm and perfect, while little Rebecca played with wildflowers at her feet. This life, it was everything she'd never dared dream. Born from desperation and snow, watered with blood and tears, but grown into something beautiful, something lasting. Isaiah looked up, caught her watching, and smiled, that rare, full smile he saved just for her and their children. He said something to the kids, then walked up the slope to where she stood. "What are you thinking?" he asked, pulling her close, careful not to wake Junior. "That I'm grateful." Eliza leaned into his strength, this mountain of a man who'd saved her in every way that mattered. For that day, for the storm, for you seeing me when I couldn't see myself. You saved yourself, Eliza. Isaiah kissed her temple. I just gave you the space to do it. We saved each other, she corrected. Together. Together, Isaiah agreed. And in that word was everything. Past and present, sorrow and joy, the promise of all their tomorrows. The children called for their father, and Isaiah went, and Eliza watched her family with a full heart. The wilderness had tried to break her. Instead, it had remade her into someone stronger, fiercer, more alive than she'd ever been. And she'd never been more grateful for a snowstorm, a desperate moment, and a mountain giant who'd looked at her and seen not what she'd lost, but everything she could become. Their story would be told for generations, the widow and the trapper who built an empire from ashes, who faced down outlaws and winter and loss, and emerged with love strong enough to weather any storm. Together, always together. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're enjoying this tale from. Are you listening at home, during your commute, or perhaps while working? Please subscribe to the From Wild West channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think of Eliza and Isaiah's journey? Your feedback means the world to us.